CrossFit Games. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm Sean Woodland alongside Bill Grundler. Mike Arsenault is on the course for the opening event of the competition, a 10-lap criterium race, and we're going to find out really quickly who can adapt.
You know, there just is no limits anymore when you talk about the CrossFit Games of what kind of test is going to be thrown at these guys. And starting off with a very specific road race, we saw last year, we saw the mountain bike. We see a very technical race this year with the road bike. It's going to be fun.
And it's just the first of 4 events we're going to do here on Wednesday.
I mean, just look at that list that you see on the screen. If you compare that to any of the first, 2 or 3 games, we're doing more work in one day than those guys did in the entire game. It's impressive.
The opening event, a criterium race, 10 laps around a 1,200-meter course. And the athletes will be clipped into their bikes, and this is a very unique challenge that they have not faced before.
Unique, and it's very specific. We have some very high-tech equipment that these guys have to deal with, and if they have experience on the bike, they're going to do really well, and if they don't, how fast are they going to be able to adapt to it?
Let's send it down to Mike Arsenault, who is on the course.
Thanks, Sean. Here are the differences in terms of the mountain bike used from last year and the road bike this year. So let's start with the tires. It's a lot thinner, so the athletes are going to be able to go a lot faster. However, it's also a little bit less safe. In the course, as we saw during the women's event, it's not smooth. There's a lot of cracks, there's divots, there's undulations in the pavement. So if you get your tire caught in the crack, you could go down. Next, Bill mentioned we have the clips. The first time in competition, the athletes will be clipped. What this will allow them to do is be able to utilize their leg muscles throughout the entirety of their stroke. However, if you're not familiar with clips and you have to slow down, or there's the chance you might fall off your bike if you don't know how to unclip properly, that could cause you some issues on the course. And then gears will be a big part of this event. When to shift up and down, that's going to create the top speed of 20 to 25 miles per hour that we'll see the leaders produce here on this course.
Thank you, Mike. All 39 men in the field here, and we will start in lane number 1, and we will move from the slowest qualifying times to the fastest. Yesterday, the athletes were on the course for a 1-lap qualifying time, and it was Adrian Moondweiler who put up the fastest time, the only man to go sub 140, 139.17 seconds. And as we saw with the women, things have the potential to get pretty crowded out here, especially when you have this many athletes, some of whom are not used to riding these bikes on this kind of course.
It's going to be very interesting. We have to see who has the comfort, who isn't afraid to be a little close to people on these bikes, and then those that are comfortable, are they really going to put the pedal down? We saw what Adrian did yesterday on his time trial. It's an amazing speed. Is it going to be able to hold that for the course of the 10 laps? We'll have to see.
Moondweiler is on the inside. He is in the black top. Right next to him in the blue is Rasmus Anderson. He had the second fastest time. And then in third, who else? The 2-time defending fittest man on earth, Matt Fraser, with a qualifying time of 1 minute, 42.94 seconds.
And you look at Matt Fraser, there's just really nothing that this guy, we haven't found a chink in this guy's armor. And, you talk about a bike race last year at the cyclocross. He took second in that event. He comes in with the 3rd fastest split in this event. We've seen over the course of his offseason, he's been doing triathlon. So being on the bike and pushing that is not an issue for him. And up at the top of your screen, Adrian Moondweiler, this guy, he didn't get a chance to come here last year due to injury, but this year, starting off with a bike race, I've seen this guy's social media, and he has bike rides riddled all over his social media. So whether it's a barbell or whether it's bike, this guy's very comfortable. He is going to be a guy to watch in this event.
Adrian Moondweiler making a second appearance here at the CrossFit Games in 2016. He finished 34th in his rookie year. He finished 2nd in the Europe Regional to qualify here to Madison, and he won event number 4 in the process there. There will be a rolling start as the athletes will get clipped into their bikes, and then they will cross the green starting line to signify the beginning here of the opening event of the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games. Director of the Games, Dave Castro, is on that bright yellow bike, and he will lead the athletes to that starting point. Athletes starting to build up speed as they approach the beginning here of the opening event of the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games, the criterium, 10 laps around a 1,200-meter course, and we are underway as Matt Fraser and Rasmus Anderson take the early lead in the opening part here of the first lap.
And it looked like Matt hopped right up to his legs to get some good driving power to get himself out into the front. That is a strategy to put yourself out in the front so you don't have so many people to deal with. However, in cycling, we talk about drafting and being in the lead doesn't guarantee you the win. All that does is mean that you're setting the pace for everyone. You get everyone else to kind of hang out back there, and that's going to be a nice position to sit in.
You were out here on the course yesterday. You got to watch these athletes go through their qualifying laps. What do you think the keys are now as they actually find themselves in a race setting?
Well, I think the first thing these guys really have to do is be comfortable with their equipment. They have to understand those clips and be comfortable with being locked in and not have the fear of falling. Feel comfortable on that bike, and these bikes are light if they don't have any kind of a high-tech piece of equipment like this. But mostly it's going to be efficiency. Efficiency in your turn, meaning you come out wide so you can come in nice and tight, know when to brake, check your speed before that turn. And the gearing is going to be hugely important. You want to be able to have a lot of power coming out of the turn and not spinning your wheels going too fast or wasting a lot of energy going nice and slow on those drives.
Rasmus Andersson in the blue will be a popular man to draft behind because he's 215 pounds. And now Matt Fraser has moved himself into the lead ahead of Andersson. And Andersson will get a chance to do some drafting off the two-time defending champion as we close out the first of 10 laps here in the opening event.
Now, this is the weird thing with Matt. We know that he's a competitor. He doesn't like to sit back and wait. That's not really his style. He wants to get out there in front. But in this sort of event, it's really not going to play to his favor to do that. So, yes, he's out in the front. The only thing I can think is that he's trying to rabbit everyone to push harder than they want to. Oh.
Patrick Vellner has dropped a chain. Vellner had a bad start to the games last year, was able to work himself up the leaderboard after the opening event, gets himself a new bike. He is back on, but Vellner wound up on the podium. He finished in third place overall after a pretty bad finish to start the games. He was 36th last year after the opening event, and after that mishap, you might be looking at the same sort of start here in 2018.
Yeah, that's not what he wants. I mean, it's just a mental thing at this point to start off in a hole that deep. But up in the front, again, we see Matt leading, and I see a lot of the guys are looking around. I didn't see this so much with the ladies, but they're really looking to see where everyone is. They want to know who's right behind them. They want to know who's on either side of them. It's a little bit more aggressive. You can see how tight these guys are going. Matt pulling off to the side. You can see him right there, letting these other guys lead, letting these other guys go. Now, what Matt should do is, as he pulls out, get back into the group to let those leaders pull him along. That's what drafting's all about. Let them block the wind, and they can literally pull you along as you're moving.
Adrian Moonweiler has moved out in front of Rasmus Andersson, and Matt Fraser has slotted himself into third place, and Cole Sager now sits in fourth. As we finish up lap number 2 of 10 here, 1,200 meters around this circuit. It's the first of 4 events that we will do here for the individuals on the opening day of the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games. Now Andersson making a move on the outside as we kick off lap number 3. And Andersson is going to get himself back in front of the pack.
Again, I like the way these guys are going very wide before that turn, making sure that their speed's appropriate, coming in nice and tight, not trying to cut the corner real close. They want to keep as much momentum as possible on each of those turns.
Patrick Vellner back on his bike. Brandon Luckett is right behind him. Send it down to Mike Arsenault, who has more on Patrick Vellner.
Well, there's a contingency in place if something happens to an athlete like what just happened to Patrick Vellner. If they lose a chain or if they pop a tire, there are 4 maintenance stations located on each straightaway of the course. So the athletes will have to get their bike that isn't working, run to the maintenance station, pick up a new bike, get their chain put back on before they can get back on their bike and continue here in event number 1.
Adrian Moonweiler in the black now, starting to open up a little bit of a lead early on. Moonweiler out in front, looking for his first ever event win here at the CrossFit Games. His prior best finish was 5th. That was in the Ranch Trail Run, the opening event of the CrossFit Games in 2016.
And you can watch what Adrian's doing. He's looking back to see where everyone is. He wants to know, is the group catching up to him. And a lot of cyclists will do this. They'll do what's called a sprint tempo. They go really hard and fast, and then they kind of cool off a little bit. Then they go really hard and fast and cool off again. So you saw him jump out to the front. The one thing about being in the front, if you don't have someone on your tail, then you aren't pulling them. So yeah, you're out in the front. No, you don't have anyone blocking the wind for you, but you aren't pulling anyone along too. So he's really looking to see where is Rasmus right behind him in the big blue, and he's just kind of letting him go, let him out in front, and he kind of slides in behind. Great move there. Then when he gets rested up, he shoots out to the front.
Rasmus Andersen back in the lead. We are through 3 laps. 10 laps here around this 1,200-meter course, and things are playing out as we pretty much expected, with no one really wanting to push the pace here, and the top 3 men in the qualifying are now the top 3 men.
And look at that line. Look at that line. This is smart. Everyone's playing the game. They're drafting. They're not trying to jump ahead. They're not trying to lead the pack. They're just trying to stay in there. They know that they have a handful of laps to go yet. So we aren't going to see any real aggressive moves other than I'm going to lead and then I trade off. And then I'm going to lead and I'm going to trade off. And one thing that we have to think about, we have Rasmus and Adrian out in the front. These guys have been training together for the last couple months in the UAE, so you know that they've been riding together. I'm sure these guys have been riding together, and if you watch the way they're working, they're trading off who's leading. So whether we know it or not, they may have had a little alliance to say, hey, I'll take a little work, then you take a little work, and they go back and forth.
Mundweiler leads Rasmus Andersen. Lap number 4 of 10, and now Mundweiler is waving Rasmus Andersen in front of him, so Andersen can take a turn at the front. Patrick Vellner, meanwhile, is trying to work his way up, and he has a lot of ground to make up here, as he had that problem with his chain. He's on the bottom right of your screen. He's in the light blue top. He had a bad start to the games last year. He was 36 after event 1, but was able to work himself up the leaderboard and eventually finish 3rd overall for the 2nd straight year. So Patrick Vellner has to dig himself out of the hole after one event again here at the CrossFit Games.
Now we got another little cyclist hopping up into the picture. Oh, you can see what Rasmus is doing. Hey, get up here. Hurry up and get up here. So these guys have talked about this earlier. They don't want to be in the lead the whole time. And actually, who just up into the front is Lucas Hogberg. He's done some riding over this last year with the semi-pro team, so he has experience on the bike. He knows how to kind of hang with the group. You saw that action by Rasmus to tell him to get up to the front. So these guys are all being very smart about how they're moving. And again, they want to do the work as much as they can, keep themselves up in the front. The guys that have been riding understand that the race is not going to be won here in lap number 5. They can worry about that when they get to 8, but right now they're just trying to trade off and share that workload.
Now, Lucas Hogberg missed out on the games last year. He is making his 4th career appearance here. His best finish was in 2016 when he took 14th overall, and he is a guy you want to draft off of. He is 211 pounds, so one of the bigger guys in the field here. Adrian Mundweiler is back in front of Rasmus Andersen. The two of them have been content to trade that top spot as they pull the rest of the field behind them here, as we are getting set to hit the halfway point of this opening event. 10 total laps here in the criterium. The first of 4 events on Wednesday, the most events we have ever done on a Wednesday at the CrossFit Games.
Look at how comfortable Adrian is on his handlebars. He's able to just kind of rest his arms down there. Now, you usually don't see that unless it's a longer event, but just very comfortable. You can see he's pumping away with those legs, not a big deal. Also laying down in that position is a very aerodynamic, and if you're going to be out in the front, you want to be as aerodynamic as possible.
Mundweiler and Andersen on the backstretch. Lucas Hogberg in the whites behind him. We close out lap number 5. Halfway point now of the opening event. Just saw the leaders. Patrick Vellner is half a lap behind as he tries to just make up ground now and score as many points as he possibly can in this opening event. And it looks like for the 2nd straight year, Patrick Vellner will have to dig himself out of a hole at the CrossFit Games.
I guess the only positive out of that, there's no way else but up, right? So he did it last year. We'll see if he can do it again this year.
Lucas Hogberg back in front of the lead pack.
So we talked to Becky Konzelman, who used to do some racing before her CrossFit days yesterday. And this is one of the things she was talking about. Are there going to be alliances that are formed?
And a wreck as we have an athlete down. That is Mitchell Stevenson out of the West Regional, making his first ever appearance here at the CrossFit Games.
Ah, man, that's rough. But again, up in the front, are you going to have athletes that are going to form alliances and teams as they go up? But cycling is a team event, even though we always talk about single people. So if you see something like that, that really works for everyone in the team. And it looks like we have a handful of those guys up in the front that this was a pre-thought-out idea for all these guys to be kind of hanging together. There's a lot of talking. Look at all those mouths. There's a lot of talking going on with everyone.
Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson is now in front as we take another look at Mitchell Stevenson on the turn, who just got caught on that line and jackknifed his tire and was immediately off the bike. He is okay, and he's back on, as now Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson has jumped out in front. He's trying to push the pace a little bit. Gudmundsson, who did pretty well in the cyclocross event last year here in Madison, and Frederick Gideus sits in second place. So a change in the top two, but Matt Fraser is still hanging around there in the top five, as he has for the entirety of this race. We are on now lap number 7 of 10. So this is where some athletes might want to start making some moves towards the front.
Well, they really need to decide if they're gonna start to attack now or not. Now we saw with the women, some of the ladies that made their move on lap 7 and then blew out too early. So yeah, you can make your move now, but just kind of strategically put yourself in the front. Don't feel you have to get out there and start breaking away.
Adrian Moonweiler back in front as we send it down to Mike Arsenault on the course.
Thanks, Sean. Noah Ohlsen here at the finish line. Just had to get a new bike. He's clipped in again, and he's back on the course. But one thing about the turns, all 4 turns on this course are extraordinarily tight. And again, a lot of them are pockmarked, and they have some undulations. In fact, turn 2 was so bad that earlier in the week, they actually had to pave it before we started this event.
Thanks, Mike. Noah Ohlsen had a pedal pop off of his bike. So a lot of things happening beyond these athletes' control that they just have to find a way to deal with. And Ohlsen now will try to work his way back up into the pack, as Adrian Moonweiler is back in front as we close out lap number 7, and now he's waving someone else to the front. And it looks like Frederick Gideus will take his turn leading the pack. Let's go back to Noah Ohlsen, who's in the top left, and his pedal just pops off on his right foot, and then finds a way to get himself another bike as he gets himself to the maintenance station, but he loses valuable time. He had to kick that old pedal off and then re-clip into that bike and get himself going. So Noah Ohlsen losing valuable time because of a problem with his bike. And Ohlsen is a guy that every year has had that one big mistake that has just kept him off the podium. And this one, if it turns out to be the difference in between a podium spot and a finish maybe inside the top 10 for Noah Ohlsen, beyond his control, just a mechanical problem, so Ohlsen will have to find a way to overcome that. On lap 8 of 10, and it's Rasmus Andersen who's in front, and now Andersen is going to slide aside and let someone else take the lead as Frederick Gideus looks to move to the front and lead the pack, but he's not going to do it. Andersen sits there in first. Gideus is in second, so now this is where the gamesmanship starts. Lucas Hogberg is behind him. Matt Fraser, Bjorn Gudmundsson, all now in the top 5.
So no one wanted to move up. No one wants to take the workload here because they want to have that rest before they go into the final lap. So they're forcing Rasmus out into the front. You saw him try to wave some people up, and it didn't happen. So here, all of a sudden, now it's like, okay, we might start to see a breakdown of those alliances if they were formed, and who's going to start to make a move. They're all lined up. See Matt Fraser trying to make a break, but again, Matt looks like he's working solo on this whole race versus all the Europeans that are all basically trying to work together as much as possible.
That's Pablo Chalfun, who is in the back and in danger of getting lapped. He is the first Brazilian man to represent his country here as an individual at the CrossFit Games.
Oh, Rasmus does not look happy about that.
He's going to be a popular man to draft off of. Again, he is one of the biggest athletes in the field at 215 pounds. And now the lead pack, they have to get around Pablo Chalfun. And some of the athletes who have fallen back here. Communication going on to make sure everyone gets through safely.
Look at that break. Look at that breakaway by Adrian.
So Moonweiler has now lapped Marquand Jones. And Adrian Moonweiler is way out in front of the pack here. And this is the biggest lead we have seen as we are now in lap number 9. 2 laps remain here in the opening event of the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games of Criterium. And Adrian Moonweiler is all by himself. Bjorn Gudmundsson, Josh Bridges has moved up. He's in the top 3 now. Matt Fraser and James Newberry in the top 5. Brent Fikowski is in second place now, riding Moonweiler's tire.
And Adrian, you can see him looking around. Look at this is right here is drafting. Brent is literally not pedaling and keeping that exact distance and pace with Adrian. That's what drafting is all about. If you can tuck in, and this is interesting because Adrian's not a very tall guy. Brent being extra tall, he's trying to tuck in as much as possible.
And Brent, James Newberry is the man in front. So James Newberry leads. We apologize for misidentifying the athletes, but James Newberry out of Australia, who had an outstanding run at regionals, is in front. And these are the men in the back. So Cody Anderson, Patrick Vellner, Scott Panchik, and Brandon Luckett are in danger of getting lapped. James Newberry, number 26, he's in the blue. He is your leader. Behind him is Adrian Moonweiler, and we have 2 laps to go.
And I think actually Adrian's happy about the fact that James came up there, caught him, and now he has someone to pace off. So again, we've seen this separation from the rest of the pack. These guys are going to have to kind of fight. They're basically fighting for third. Adrian's just going to hang out nice and tight. And now let's see what happens.
And now the final lap as James Newberry looks to win the first event of his career here at the CrossFit Games, making his 3rd appearance. And he's trying to make up for what was a disappointing performance for him last year when he finished 26th overall. And Newberry now has to deal with the men who are lagging behind here.
And this is where it's going to get very technical. Those guys that are getting lapped, they need to get out of the way. The guys that are approaching them have to be very smart. They have to use their communication and let them know where they're coming, whether on the right or the left.
But for Newberry now, he's in the lead and has an opportunity to draft.
Totally. But this is the thing. We've seen how hard Adrian can push. We've seen the drive. So he's going to look to make a breakaway on one of those turns. But he's looking to see exactly where James is every single time. You see him looking back a lot.
Adrian Moonweiler's back in front. Newberry is in second place, and they just passed Brandon Luckett, who is finishing up lap number 9. But these are your 2 leaders. Adrian Moonweiler, who had the top qualifying time, leads James Newberry into the home stretch here. James Newberry's prior best finish 5th place in run, swim, run last year. And now Newberry trying to push Moonweiler for the lead.
Okay, now this next turn is very hairpin, so who has the most efficient turn in and out with the power outage of those driving the legs is going to be important. Whoa, nice tight.
And Moonweiler's through safely, as is Newberry, and now it looks like Adrian Moonweiler on the final stretch is going to lock up his first career win at the CrossFit Games. 100 points for Adrian Moonweiler.
Wow. That was a brilliant race. I mean, you talk about a cycling race. That was done cycling strategy, cycling technically. Beautiful job.
10 athletes are through. Newberry finishes 2nd. That's his best career finish so far at an event at the CrossFit Games. Lucas Hogberg is 3rd, and Matt Fraser finishes in 4th, and Alexander Caron is 5th. Pablo Chalfoun still has a lap to go. As more men are finishing up the final lap here in the Criterium race, the first of 4 events here on Wednesday at the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games. Brent Fikowski, meanwhile, finished in 9th, so he was in the top 10, so a solid finish for Brent Fikowski. Marquand Jones still with 1 lap to go.
And you see the difference between the athletes that have the comfort on that bike and the ones that don't. And there was a definite split, and that split happened right away. You saw the athletes that were actually in the race and the ones that were just trying to not fall down.
Adrian Moonweiler with his first career event win in his second appearance at the CrossFit Games, and James Newberry takes second. And Newberry is a guy who comes off a regional performance in the Pacific with 3 event wins there down there in Sydney, Australia, and he's looking to continue that momentum. But on the last turn here, Matt Fraser nearly had a wreck.
Well, and this is the whole thing, you can't take that, you can't come too close and get yourself all squirrely. This is the most technical turn out of all of them. Plus, it's the final turn, so the anxiety of wanting to get going is a big deal. And the fact that he was able to have that bobble and still pull it off, very impressed. I mean, once again, what are you going to say? The guy is impressive.
Fraser is in. He'll finish in 4th place in the opening event. Meanwhile, we still have men looking to finish up. Patrick Vellner is one of them. Remember, Vellner dropped the chain earlier in the event, had to get a new bike, and for the 2nd straight year, he's going to have to dig himself out of a hole. Brandon Luckett is in. And now, here comes the rest of the field who just finished up their final lap. Vellner among those men. So Patrick Vellner, 2 straight times, 3rd place overall at the CrossFit Games. And for the 2nd straight year, he's going to have to climb up the leaderboard over the next 4 days.
Well, again, the nice thing is, and the one thing that Pat knows, is that there are a lot of events to gain points on. So, yes, that was unfortunate that it went down like that. But he did the exact same thing last year and was able to pull that out.
And here's the thing, too. This was beyond his control. It's not like he had a bad performance. It was just bad luck for Patrick Vellner. The opening event of the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games is in the books for both the men and the women. Marquand Jones making his first ever appearance at the CrossFit Games as a cross. Lucas Hogberg, 37, finished in 3rd place. He was one of the men who was towards the front for the majority of the race.
I tell you, I was not expecting to see the communication that was going on with all the Europeans, but we were looking at Adrian to do something big. He had a great time trial yesterday and came out in the front and really set the stage on not just how to go, but what to do. We had a couple of unfortunate things happen on the course, right there with Vellner popping that chain. We also had one with Noah, his pedal falling off. But basically it came down to that alliance that was formed. You can see Rasmus Anderson calling people up. Let someone else take some of the workload. That's a lot of what cycling's all about. We saw James Newberry hop up into the group there and really hugging with Moonweiler that whole time in that last couple laps. But Adrian just had so much power and prestige as he made himself around that last lap. Really opened up on that last turn and just showed that he's got experience on a bike. And if you have it, you are going to